Leonardo DiCaprio has dated models, partied on yachts, and won every award in Hollywood. But there's one woman he couldn't stand, and it wasn't who you'd think. She was young, talented, and working with him on what would become an iconic film. He thought she was too serious. She thought he was childish. The set turned into a battlefield. And when it was over, they made a silent promise to never cross paths again. Today, we're revealing what actually went down between them. Leonardo DiCaprio got his name in a moment that felt like fate. In 1974, his mother Irmeline was standing inside the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy, looking at a painting by Leonardo da Vinci, when she suddenly felt her baby kick for the first time. That exact moment made her decide to name her child Leonardo. He was born on November 11, 1974, in Los Angeles. His full name was Leonardo Wilhelm DiCaprio. The middle name came from his German grandfather, Wilhelm. His mother had gone through her own dramatic birth. Born in Germany during World War II, on February 7, 1943, while bombs were falling outside the air raid shelter. So from the very beginning, drama and intensity seemed to follow this family. But things didn't stay calm for long. Just a year after Leonardo was born, his parents separated in 1975. His father, George, had fallen in love with another woman. But instead of splitting completely, they worked out something unusual. They moved into two small homes that shared a garden. One home for his mother, one for his father, his new girlfriend, and her son, Adam. Leonardo would move between the two, and that mix of stability and chaos shaped him. His father's world was filled with underground art and comic books. He even joked once that since he couldn't afford to send Leonardo to college, the kid would just have to become a movie star instead. His parents, though separated, never stopped supporting his dream. Some summers, Leonardo went to Germany to stay with his grandparents. He got 10 marks and giant ice creams as rewards. In one of those summers, on August 25, 1984, he entered a breakdancing contest in Ur-Erkenschwick. He called himself the Noodle, danced barefoot, and came in second place. He wanted that Walkman so badly, he almost cried. He was just 9 years old, but danced like he belonged on a stage. That loss hurt him enough that by 11, he seriously thought about giving up acting to become a full-time breakdancer. He performed on streets and joined local dance battles. His grandma, Helene, who lived until 2008, gave him his direct, sharp way of speaking. Even after becoming famous, he kept visiting her. But the world Leonardo lived in back home was rough. His childhood neighborhood in East Hollywood had a nickname: Scum Boulevard. Crime was everywhere. Prostitutes stood on his street corner. Drug addicts wandered the sidewalks. It looked like a scene from the movie Taxi Driver. He and his mother lived at 1874 Hillhurst Avenue, surrounded by broken streets and danger. His mother worked hard as a legal secretary, trying to make things work. Leonardo saw all of this and decided he wanted out. Auditions became more than a dream. They were survival. Acting was his way to escape poverty and help his mom. He first went to a school he loved, Seeds Elementary, now UCLA Lab School. He called it a peaceful place, full of kids from different backgrounds, but high school was a different story. He transferred to John Marshall High School and faced bullying. His name was strange. His energy didn't fit in. It got so bad that after finishing junior year, he dropped out. He begged his mother to drive him to every audition. He earned his GED later but never looked back. He had once thought of becoming a marine biologist, but imitating people and acting felt like his true calling. Leaving school was a gamble, but one he was willing to take. The very first time he ever performed was at just 2 years old in 1976. At a festival, music started playing, and little Leonardo jumped into dance. He wasn't supposed to perform, but the way the crowd clapped and cheered changed something in him. After that, he couldn't stop doing impressions and voices in front of anyone who would watch. His home turned into a stage. His mom knew then that he had something special, but not everything went smoothly. In 1979, at age 5, he got a job on the kids' show Romper Room. But he couldn't sit still. He'd jump around, flip, even smack the camera. The crew couldn't control him. They didn't exactly fire him, but they stopped filming him. It became a joke in his family, but it also taught him a big lesson. Being funny isn't enough. You need discipline too. By age 14 in 1988, he was already doing TV commercials. He sold Matchbox cars, Kraft singles, Bubble Yum, and Apple Jacks. Each ad taught him something. He learned how to take direction, deliver lines, and stay calm under pressure. He started earning thousands of dollars. His parents saved the money, not realizing they were helping build the career of a future Oscar winner. Still, the road was bumpy. In 1989, Leonardo got a tiny role on The New Lassie, but that came after 18 months of rejection. He went to nearly 100 auditions and didn't get picked. One casting director even told his father to change his name to something more American, Lenny Williams. His dad was furious. He tore up the fake name headshot and told Leonardo he'd never allow it. But the constant rejections wore him down. One day, after another failed audition, he cried in the car and said, "Dad, I want to be an actor. But if this is what it's like, I don't know if I can do it." His dad told him to keep going. That encouragement mattered more than anything. Even though he had placed second in that German dance competition in 1984, some reports later said he came in third. The truth was, he was devastated by not winning. In 1987, at age 11, he came close to leaving acting behind for breakdancing full-time. He performed barefoot on sidewalks. He had a breakdancer image, wild haircuts, and Hollywood agents didn't know what to do with him. But his dad always let him be who he was, even if it didn't fit the usual mold. In 1990, something changed. He landed a steady TV role on Parenthood, playing Gary Buckman. He was 16 and finally had the chance to work with big producers like Ron Howard. He acted in 12 episodes and even got nominated for Best Young Actor. It was his first real taste of what it felt like to belong in Hollywood. Then, in 1991, he joined Growing Pains as Luke Brower, a homeless teen. Producers added him to boost ratings, hoping to recreate the heartthrob energy of earlier seasons. He appeared in 23 episodes. He was smart, confident, and even got another Young Artist Award nomination. But near the end of the season, they wrote him out so he could film This Boy's Life in 1993. That role would change everything. But before that breakout film, there was one moment he hoped the world would forget. His 1991 movie Critters 3 was a straight-to-video horror sequel. It was low budget, filled with rubber aliens, and received a 23% rating. He played Josh, the son of a corrupt landlord. The film bombed. It was filmed in one apartment building, and some scenes were so dark you could barely see anything. DiCaprio never disowned it, but he also never talked about it much. One of Leonardo's earlier serious gigs came on the soap opera Santa Barbara. In 1990, he played young Mason Capwell in flashback scenes. It was just 5 episodes, but the pace was intense. He had to memorize tons of lines every day. That kind of pressure gave him the muscle to later survive on film sets. For his performance, he got nominated again at the 12th Youth in Film Awards. Leonardo DiCaprio was just 18 when he auditioned for This Boy's Life in 1993. He wasn't even trying for the lead role at first. He had just finished acting in the TV show Growing Pains and showed up for a smaller part. But the moment he started reading, something changed in the room. Robert De Niro, who already had 2 Oscars by then, turned to producer Art Linson and said, "That kid had something special." Leo wasn't just acting. He was improvising, taking risks, doing things that weren't in the script. De Niro rarely vouched for unknowns, but he made sure Leo got the lead. It was Leo's first big film role and the beginning of a connection with De Niro that would continue for 30 years, from Marvin's Room in 1996 to Killers of the Flower Moon in 2023. That same year, in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, 19-year-old Leo beat out Christian Bale for the role of Arnie. Instead of just reading lines, Leo went to a home for mentally disabled teens and watched everything closely. How they moved, how they talked, how they reacted. He stayed in character even when the camera wasn't rolling. Many people thought the filmmakers had hired someone who was actually disabled, but it was Leo. He got his first Oscar nomination at 19 for Best Supporting Actor. Filming started on November 2, 1992, and ended in late January 1993, mostly in Austin and Pflugerville, Texas. Critics said his acting felt raw and real, full of innocence and spontaneity. By 1995, Leo pushed even further in The Basketball Diaries. He played Jim Carroll, a teenager lost in heroin addiction. For the scenes showing withdrawal, Leo studied real addicts to see what detox looked like. Then he acted it out, shaking, sweating, foaming at the mouth. In one shocking moment, his character sells himself in a public restroom for $35. Director Scott Calvert filmed these scenes over several tough days. Leo didn't fake the pain. He thrashed around on the floor and let it all out. Critics called it one of the most brutally honest performances of the 1990s. Later that year, in Total Eclipse, Leo took a big risk. He was only 20 and played the French poet Arthur Rimbaud in a movie that earned just $350,000 in the US. It included same-sex love scenes and full frontal nudity, including a scene where Leo stood completely naked at a window. The film got an R rating for strong sexual content and violence. Magazines like Playgirl later paid huge sums for still photos from the film. Many theaters refused to show it. Even though it followed real history, American audiences weren't ready to see their new teen star in such a raw and adult role. It almost ended his career before it had truly begun. Also in 1995, Sharon Stone changed everything for Leo. He auditioned for The Quick and the Dead, but the studio didn't want him. They told Sharon, "If you want him, pay him yourself." So she did. She gave him over $100,000 from her own salary. She also paid Russell Crowe's salary. Leo was the only actor who cried in the scene where his character begged his father to love him. Sharon believed in him and didn't hesitate. Leo later said, "I cannot thank her enough." That movie helped lead him straight into Titanic. When Titanic came out on December 19, 1997, everything exploded. The movie made $2.2 billion and turned Leo into the most famous actor in the world. But the shoot was brutal. The water tanks were only 50 degrees. Kate Winslet got pneumonia. Leo stayed in heated water as much as he could, trying to avoid frostbite. Then something crazy happened. One night, someone laced the crew's clam chowder with PCP. About 80 people were sent to hospitals, hallucinating and vomiting. Director James Cameron pushed the cast with 20-hour shooting days. People collapsed. Leo was paid only $2.5 million, even though the film cost $200 million. That movie nearly broke everyone, but it made Leo a global star. In 2006, during a break from filming Blood Diamond, Leo tried to face his fear of sharks. He joined a charity cage diving trip off the coast of Cape Town. But something went wrong. A 15-foot great white shark slammed into the cage and got halfway inside. Leo flattened himself against the floor while it snapped its jaws just inches from his face. The crew said it was the first time in 30 years something like that had happened. Leo called it absolutely terrifying and said he'd never do anything like it again. In 1998, Leo followed up Titanic with The Man in the Iron Mask. It made $183 million, but got mixed reviews. Leo played twin brothers, one evil king, one imprisoned. But behind the scenes, people talked about his difficult behavior. He wanted personal sword trainers, accent coaches, and 4-hour makeup sessions in silence. The studio rushed the film to ride the wave of his Titanic fame. It backfired. Critics said he looked awkward next to older actors like John Malkovich and Jeremy Irons. Earlier in 1997, Leo turned down Boogie Nights. Director Paul Thomas Anderson wrote the role of Dirk Diggler for him after seeing The Basketball Diaries. Leo's agents pushed him to choose Titanic instead. He missed out on a $3 million paycheck and 5% of profits, which would have been more than $50 million. He told Anderson years later that skipping the film was his biggest mistake, and a regret that still haunted him. In 2002, Gangs of New York pushed Leo into new territory. They filmed in Rome for months, with 18-hour days. He acted alongside Daniel Day-Lewis, who stayed in character the entire time. Leo tried saying "good morning" once, but Day-Lewis just grunted. He refused modern chairs and kept up the role of Bill the Butcher even between takes. That tension made their on-screen rivalry feel real. For The Aviator in 2004, Leo played Howard Hughes. He lost weight and studied obsessive-compulsive disorder. He met real OCD sufferers and worked with UCLA experts. During filming, his own mild childhood OCD came back. He acted out scenes where Hughes scrubbed his hands until they bled. The film cost $110 million and got 11 Oscar nominations. Leo finally got his first Best Actor nod. In The Departed, 2006, Leo faced Jack Nicholson's improvisation. In one shocking moment, Nicholson pulled out a real gun without telling anyone. He pointed it right at Leo's face. The fear on screen was real. Leo had no idea it was coming. Nicholson also flashed props and added creepy lines without warning. That unpredictability pushed Leo deeper into the role of an undercover cop losing control. Also in 2006, Blood Diamond pushed him again. He trained hard to get a perfect South African accent and studied real-life mercenaries. The film explored child soldiers in Sierra Leone. Leo met orphans and saw what war had done to them. He learned about kids forced to walk for days and kill their own families. Human rights groups said 10,000 children were involved. Leo worked closely with 24 real kids who appeared in the film. It earned him another Oscar nomination and made $171 million. In 2008, Leo reunited with Kate Winslet for Revolutionary Road. They played a couple falling apart in the 1950s. The fights felt so real because Leo and Kate argued off-camera too. He studied how men behaved in the 1950s, how they talked, how they smoked, how they held their anger inside. The emotional weight was heavy. Kate later said it drained them both. In 2013, Leonardo DiCaprio won a Golden Globe for his role in The Great Gatsby. Critics said his performance as Jay Gatsby might be the best of his career. The $105 million movie made $353 million worldwide, tripling its budget, even though reviews were mixed. But instead of just celebrating the win, things got messy. People started pointing out how his real-life lifestyle looked exactly like Gatsby's. He was throwing wild parties in Cannes, spending time on yachts, and living like a billionaire playboy. Exactly what Gatsby was criticized for. This made headlines. The same movie that was meant to show the dangers of materialism became a mirror of DiCaprio's own image. Still, critics praised his acting. One called it tremendous and hard-won. showing every layer of Gatsby: tough, vulnerable, fake, funny, and tragic. The win showed his range, but the backlash made it hard to enjoy. A year later, in 2014, DiCaprio got an Oscar nomination for The Wolf of Wall Street. One scene that everyone remembers is when he crawled on the floor, high on Quaaludes. That wasn't even scripted. He based it on a YouTube video called "The Drunkest Man in the World." The movie used the word "fuck" over 500 times, setting a world record. It made $407 million globally and became Scorsese's biggest hit ever. DiCaprio was nominated twice, for acting and as producer, his fourth and fifth Oscar nods. But he lost again, this time to Matthew McConaughey in Dallas Buyers Club. People argued about whether the film glorified Wall Street greed or warned against it. And behind the scenes, things got darker. Red Granite Pictures, who helped finance the movie, was later tied to a $4.5 billion money laundering scandal. DiCaprio had to return several gifts, including a $3.2 million Picasso and a $9 million Basquiat artwork. In 2015, DiCaprio finally won the Oscar for The Revenant, but it didn't come easy. He actually slept inside a real dead horse and ate raw bison liver for one scene. The freezing temperatures during filming were so brutal that he risked hypothermia. The shoot lasted 156 days in the wild, using only natural light. The bear attack scene, which felt terrifyingly real, was created using hundreds of real attack videos and CGI. At first, the script just said, "Hugh Glass fights the bear." But DiCaprio realized it wasn't a fight. It was survival. He said it felt like being tossed around like a ball of yarn by a giant cat. After losing 5 times before, he finally won his first Oscar at age 41. In 2020, DiCaprio was nominated again for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He played Rick Dalton, a fading actor who dreams of getting an Oscar, just like DiCaprio had in his early days. The role required deep emotional work. He even improvised scenes where he broke down crying. Critics said it might be his best work ever. His chemistry with Brad Pitt created some unforgettable moments, especially scenes about their fading careers. Although he lost the Oscar to Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, many believed he deserved it. The role was seen as a tribute to old Hollywood. Leonardo DiCaprio had built a powerful image. He was seen as a serious actor, a climate activist, and a man with a clear purpose. But behind the scenes, things weren't as clean as they looked. In 2013 and 2014, a wealthy Malaysian financier named Joe Low gave Leonardo expensive gifts. One was a Pablo Picasso painting worth $3.2 million. Another was a Jean-Michel Basquiat collage worth $9 million. There was also Marlon Brando's original Oscar statue. The total value was $12.2 million. All of it came from money stolen from Malaysia's 1MDB fund, where over $3 billion vanished. What made things worse was that the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, which Leonardo starred in, was partly paid for using $238 million of this stolen money. That money went through a company called Red Granite Pictures. Their office was right above Leonardo's own production company, Appian Way Productions. In 2017, Leonardo gave back everything to the U.S. government. The Department of Justice called it the biggest embezzlement case on the planet. But the questions didn't stop there. While Leonardo often spoke about saving the planet, his own actions raised eyebrows. In just 6 weeks of 2014, he flew on private jets 6 times. Even if those flights were counted as commercial, that still meant 44 tons of carbon emissions. But private jets create 37 times more pollution per person. He also rented the 5th largest yacht in the world, owned by an oil tycoon from the UAE. In 2016, he flew 8,000 miles round-trip from Europe to New York just to collect an environmental award. Some experts calculated that his real annual carbon footprint might be around 10,000 tons. That's about 500 times more than the average American. Even though he took part in a tree planting program, critics said it didn't come close to offsetting his actual emissions. In 2016, Leonardo released a climate documentary called Before the Flood. It showed him visiting 5 continents, flying over oil fields in helicopters, and traveling to remote areas like the Arctic. He met with the Pope and government leaders around the world. The production raised over $1 million in carbon tax to help with reforestation, but the full costs were never shared publicly. People wondered why so much was spent on travel instead of directly funding clean energy. Leonardo himself admitted in the film that his carbon footprint was probably bigger than most people's. Still, his company, Appian Way, kept growing. He founded it in 2001, and by 2020, it had signed a major deal with Sony Pictures. The company helped produce big-budget movies and documentaries, giving Leonardo more control and higher profits. He earned $50 million for Inception, thanks to profit sharing. Netflix paid him $30 million for Don't Look Up, and Apple paid the same for Killers of the Flower Moon. Appian Way made both of those films. Even though he earned $20 to $30 million per acting role, he often made more from producing. But his image as a climate warrior started to crack. In January 2025, when wildfires hit Los Angeles, Leonardo flew to Mexico on a private jet with his girlfriend Vittoria Ceretti. He did donate $1 million to help with the fires, but critics still called him out for the flight. In July 2025, he got backlash for helping finance a luxury hotel near Tel Aviv, while conflict in Gaza was ongoing. That same year, in June, he went to Jeff Bezos's wedding, even though Amazon had faced criticism for environmental issues. He was seen covering his face with a cap to avoid cameras. Later, when he was in Spain collecting plastic for a documentary, people on social media asked if he had flown there on a private jet too. Then came stories from his past that were even more disturbing. In a 2002 interview, skateboarder Harold Hunter claimed that in the late 1990s, he and Leonardo would pressure women into sex, even after the women had said no. This was during Leonardo's so-called pussy posse era, when he and other young stars like Tobey Maguire were known for heavy partying. That interview was posted online in 2019 and gained attention again in 2022. Hunter spoke casually about these acts, showing no awareness of how serious they were. Around that same time, Leonardo and Tobey Maguire blocked the release of a film they had made called Don's Plum. It was shot in 1996 and 1997 and showed Leonardo playing a disturbing character. In one scene, he threw a bottle at a woman and called her a goddamn whore. The producer of the film sued them for $10 million, saying they were using their power to silence the movie. The director later wrote an open letter accusing Leonardo of bullying and censorship. The movie was eventually released overseas, but it was permanently banned in the US and Canada. Another thing people talked about was Leonardo's dating history. Reports showed that he had never publicly dated anyone over the age of 25. When Camilla Morrone turned 25 in 2022, they broke up 2 months later. The same happened with Gisele Bündchen in 2005, Bar Refaeli in 2010, and Kelly Rohrbach in 2015. His current girlfriend, Vittoria Ceretti, turned 26 in June 2023. The age gap between them, he is now 50, sparked even more discussion. At the 2022 Oscars, comedian Amy Schumer joked that DiCaprio was trying to leave the planet in better shape for his younger girlfriends. Back in 1996, when he filmed Romeo plus Juliet, there were problems on set too. He was 21 and Claire Danes was just 16. She later said he acted immature and played pranks all the time. He said she was uptight. They didn't get along well, and barely talked when not filming. She later admitted she had a crush on him, but also said working with him was not easy. They never acted together again after that. In 2025, Leonardo had 2 more public run-ins. During Paris Fashion Week in March, he refused fan photos and acted distant, which many called a diva moment. A few months later in August, he was stopped by police at a party in Ibiza because they didn't recognize him. He had to show ID to get in. Meanwhile, other celebrities like Kendall Jenner walked right in, and even rapper Travis Scott was denied entry. DiCaprio's girlfriend was overheard saying police were searching me full on right now. When he played Ernest Burkhart in Killers of the Flower Moon, he had to wear fake rotting teeth and act like a man who slowly poisoned his wife. The film covered the Osage murders that happened between 1918 and 1931, when over 60 Native Americans were killed for their oil rights. Leonardo said it was one of the darkest characters he ever played. The movie cost around $215 million to make and ran for 206 minutes. It earned $158 million and got 10 Oscar nominations. But some people criticized it for focusing more on white characters instead of native voices. The story was also important because it was the FBI's first big case. In another film released in 2025, One Battle After Another, Leonardo surprised everyone by refusing to use method acting. He played a stoned revolutionary named Bob Ferguson, but he told the director, "Can't do it, can't perform," when asked to smoke on camera. The movie cost about $140 million and opened with $22.4 million in the US. It was shot with old-school VistaVision cameras, and it was the first time he worked with director Paul Thomas Anderson. Leonardo said he had admired Anderson since watching Boogie Nights years ago. Altogether, his films have earned $6.95 billion globally, plus $701 million more from the movies and shows produced by Appian Way. 11 of his movies opened with more than $20 million in their first weekends. He has won 3 Golden Globes and has inspired actors like Timothée Chalamet. His projects often spark debate, and he still earns around $30 million per film. In 2025, Appian Way signed a new 3-year deal with Paramount Pictures, moving away from Warner Brothers. Now at 50, Leonardo says he's slowing down. He wants to focus on stories that matter and that will last. His relationship with Vittoria Ceretti is under pressure. She told Vogue France that she doesn't like being seen only as DiCaprio's girlfriend. This is the first time people say he fears being dumped. They're still seen together in New York, but people close to them say she might be ready to walk away. He has never married and reportedly never planned to. Looking ahead, Leonardo's company is working on new projects. He's reuniting with Martin Scorsese for The Devil in the White City and teaming up with Jennifer Lawrence for What Happens at Night. He also has a climate fiction project called Sandcastle Empire. These future films will focus more on environmental collapse and sustainability. He says he's no longer chasing awards. He just wants to make films that start conversations and last for decades.